this week we are introduced to a new theme, a new image, if you will, and that is Jesus saying, I am the resurrection and the life. And this story is found in John chapter 11. And if you think about the 7 signs that reveal who Jesus is in John's gospel, the raising of Lazarus from the dead is the 7th and obviously the greatest sign. This is also our 5th I am saying is a part of this story as well. So I'm going to spend several days working us through the story, and then we'll look at some additional scriptures later in the week. So if you turn and look in John chapter 11, the story begins that a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. And Mary, Martha, and Lazarus appear to be friends and acquaintances of Jesus. And John says that Mary is the one who would anoint the Lord with perfume and wiped his feet with her hair, and it's her brother. So he's making the point up front. These are people Jesus is close to. They're not strangers. They're not just casual acquaintances. And so the message comes to Jesus, Lord, he whom you love is ill. But when Jesus heard it, he said, this illness does not lead to death. Rather, it is for God's glory, so the Son of Man may be glorified through it. So accordingly, John says, even though Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Then he says to the disciples, let's go to Judea again. And the disciples are not excited about this idea. And they say to him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now trying to stone you, and are you going to go there again? And Jesus reminds them that there's only so many hours in the day, and those who walk during the day don't stumble because they see the light of this world. See him hearkening back to that image of him being the light of the world that we heard back in chapter 8 and chapter 9. And then he says to them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going there to awaken him. And the disciples, taking him literally, say if he's fallen asleep, he'll be all right. But Jesus didn't mean that he had fallen asleep. He was talking about his death. So then Jesus tells them plainly, Lazarus is dead. So it couldn't be any starker. And these are our verses for the day, verses 14 and 15. Then Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus is dead. For your sake, I'm glad I was not there, so that you may believe, but let us go to him. And I want to conclude today with verse 16. Thomas, who was called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, let us also go, that we may die with him. So in the beginning, in setting up the story, the key points are Mary, Martha, and Lazarus are Jesus' close friends. He loves them. Even though he knows he's sick, he waits to heighten the tension. And now he's going to go back to a place where he has faced opposition, but he's going to go and he is going to do something that everyone will remember for the rest of their lives. And the final note I want to add is, it's so important not to label people. So many people, when they think of Thomas, the disciple, they think of, what's the phrase you put it, like it's his first name? Yep, doubting Thomas. That's what comes to everybody's mind. But here in verse 16, he's really courageous Thomas. He's the one of all the disciples who says, let us also go, that we may die with him. He may be skeptical and pessimistic about their prospects, but he has the guts and the courage to be willing to go. And that's something that we all can strive to emulate.